Hello everyone, it's Helen at Journaling Planet, and today I'm going to be working in my trash journal. Now this is a journal that I'm trying to make sure comprises of 100% trash and nothing else. And so far I've been pretty successful on that front. If you'd like to hop back to the first video where I demonstrate how I made this journal, then by all means click on the playlist below. But for those of you who caught that, this is basically the next installment of that project. And I'm cutting down some of the trash from my recycling and adding it into the signatures. Now I'm just working on the first signature today because it is quite a time-consuming thing to get everything cut down, to the size that I want it. And there's only so many hours in the day, sadly, to craft. So just the first signature. And what became apparent as I worked on this first signature is that it is going to be quite a lengthy project by the time I'm finished. It's funny because obviously I'm just working with trash, stuff that most people would just throw in the recycling. But it's my endeavour with this project to try and make it look as artistic as possible. So that means taking some time in getting things cut nicely and glued in as precisely as I can. I don't go completely overboard with that, but I do try and make it look as presentable as possible, even though it is trash. So I'm sort of testing the limits of trash and seeing how presentable and artistic you can make it look when you put it into a journal. So essentially what I'm doing with each piece that I glue in is that I'm backing the sort of more flimsy paper signature. And as much as possible, I'll be doing that all the way through. There are a couple of exceptions where I'm not going to add a sturdier piece of cardboard because I want to add a pocket, or I just think that the material is too nice as it is. I don't really want to add cardboard to it. So a couple of occasions that happens, but on the whole, I am going to reinforce the flimsier paper pages that I've added with the thicker cardboard. Now I'm using some double-sided tape to add the cardboard pieces. I don't do this with absolutely all of them. It's just where the cardboard is a bit thicker and I think it could do with something a little bit sturdier to hold it to the paper. I do add glue as well to do double duty. I have a suspicion that at the end of this project, I am going to need to go through each page and just, as you do with most projects, I think, and just check what has actually glued down, what has actually stuck properly. If you ever get to the end of a project and find that corners are pulling up and things, you are not alone. This happens, I think, to most crafters, no matter which glue they choose. There's always a corner missed somewhere that you need to go back and re-glue down. So I'll be doing a lot of checking on the glue on this project at the end. For now, I'm just getting things in a place where, I'm happy with them. So just a place where I think, yes, I want that piece there. And I'll go back at the end and I will glue down a little bit more, with a little bit more strength, if necessary, at the end. So I'm just going through my trash folder and pulling out some bits and pieces for this journal, things that I'd like to put in it. And I have been hoarding this piece of chocolate box. I don't know how long it's been that this has been in my collection, and it is such a cute piece of card. I just could not part with it. And it's got that lovely sort of octagonal cutout in the middle there. It was a very nice piece of chocolate that somebody bought me after my husband died. They said, I know it's not going to bring him back, but I just wanted to send you something and hopefully it'll bring a little bit of pleasure. And it did. It did bring a little bit of pleasure, and also the packaging is now bringing more pleasure because I am cutting it up and finally finding a place for it in my craft. Again, if you are somebody who has hoarded something for a very long time, particularly things that are sort of trash items, I really recommend making a trash journal because it just essentially encourages you to go, right, I'm gluing all this down. This is getting used today. It is not going to sit in that box any longer in my craft room. And you know what? It does look really great when you glue it all together. So it is an incentive to do that. Now, what I realized when I started gluing this in is that if I just glued it straight down, there would just be kind of brown cardboard in those holes. And I thought, well, I don't really want that. I want it to look as ornate as possible. So I went looking in my trash box for some things I could put behind it. And I remembered that my photographer friend had sent me some old boxes for film stock that he was just going to put in the recycling. And they're these wonderful vintage designs. And I thought, yes, this is finally the time where I get to use them in something, because they have been waiting for some time, to go into a project. And so I cut them down. I made a little bit of a mistake on the first hole in that I cut it down too small for the big hole. And then I ended up putting it in the smaller hole. But I learned that lesson and I didn't do that a second time. So I just found things to put in these little holes so that they weren't just brown cardboard on the other side. So actually making that a little bit of a feature, even though, yes, I know I am working with just trash. I do want this to look as artistic as it can. So I started looking for things that I could pull out of this piece of card and put into those holes there. And I was really pleased with how it turned out. My photographer friend was really pleased to hear that I'd finally found a use for the things that he'd sent me. And once they're all glued down and in place, I do think it adds a little something extra to the page. I did feel also that the thing that was trickiest with this bit was actually gluing it down to the page. When I just glued down all these little pieces to the back, they were in danger of wriggling around as I was trying to glue the main piece down. So that is something to be mindful of if you're going to do the same trick, that the pieces you've just glued down, unless they've properly dried, are still movable, and you need to be aware of that when you're gluing the piece down. But look at that. Doesn't that look fantastic? With the little pieces of cardboard peeping through those little windows. And this is the bit here where I just had to get a little bit careful about how I was applying this glue, because I just could see that these pieces were going to move around if I wasn't very careful, and I wanted them to stay in exactly the positions that I'd put them in. So that was something that I was really glad I took the time to do. It was actually quite time consuming to get all those little pieces in the window. This is sped up, times 2. So it took me twice as long as you're seeing on the video, but it was worth the time to get that in place. And then I decided to go back to this kind of almost transparent piece of packaging. It's very vellum-like. And I had this gorgeous vintage paper bag from when I visited a museum near me. It's an open-air museum called Beamish. And it has recreated a retro town from the late 1800s, early 1900s, and also they've got some 1950s shops. And so, of course, when I went there, I couldn't help but buy something from the chocolate shop, because I'm a chocoholic, basically. I love chocolate. And when I was given this paper bag, I was like, that is going to come in handy. I don't know when, I don't know where, but I will use that paper bag. And Julie, here I am, gluing it down into place and getting it into my signature. So although I'm actually only working on the first signature today, I did make a bit of an exception with this in that I did glue in the other part of this logo into the second signature as well. It just seemed silly having that piece sitting there when it could be, put into a journal. So I do go to the second signature and I do cut around the rest of the logo and glue it in and find a place for that. I just think it would have been silly to just say, no, I'm only working on the first signature today, so that will have to hang around in the craft room. No, just get it glued down if you see an opportunity. That's my current motto, is just get it glued down whenever the opportunity strikes. And I'm very lucky to have things like this vintage paper bag in my stash, and also the retro photography film boxes. I understand that not everyone's going to have those in their stash, but I do think that other people's trash is often more interesting than our own. And one solution is to tell people that you are doing this project, that you are looking for interesting packaging, and to ask your friends and family to keep an eye out of the things that they're putting in the recycling, knowing that you are putting this project together. That way, you are going to end up with donations from people, like I did with the photography boxes there, and they came in so handy, and they're such beautiful little things. So it is really worth telling people that you do this hobby, that what might look like trash to someone else does not look like trash to you. I'm using this old calendar. It's a very cute little guinea pig on one of the pages. And old calendars, of course, once you get to the end of the year, they rather outlive their usefulness. to most people, but not to crafters. No, not to us, because we know that those gorgeous images can be repurposed, that we can find a use for them. And in this case, I am just cutting this down as far as needed to get it fit into the journal. And then I do actually also use the offcuts with the oranges on them on the opposite page. And my goal with this journal this time, I don't think I actually mentioned this in the introduction, but my goal was to just make sure that one side of the paper on each page in the signature had something new on it. So I'm not going for both sides and covering both sides. I'm just going for one side in this video. And that way the book is sort of worked on at a rather even rate. So the front isn't top heavy, if you see what I mean, and pulling on the binding. So every single page in the first signature now has something on the back side of it, which was my aim for this video, just to keep things even as I work on them. And I really enjoyed this gluing in process. And, I did just go on to the second signature briefly there to add on this orange because there was a sunshine logo. And I just think that oranges go nicely. The image of an orange, it goes really nicely with a sunshine, the idea of sunshine. So I put this in place. But other than that, I did not work on the second signature, and that will be in the next video. I really hope this video has helped you rethink how you look at the trash in your house. This project has certainly done that for me. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop it a like, please subscribe, maybe even share it with someone if you think they would find it useful. I'll be back with another video soon, but until then, take care, happy crafting, and I'll see you next time.